just out of doing ordinary mundane activities like folding socks. You think, hey, they're on to something here. There is something good going on here if we just give our brains what it needs, so we can experience the joy that should be there, I think, for all of us just with living.
Is there a place here for fiber?
Is there what?
Did she mention fiber? It doesn't seem like she mentioned fiber anywhere here.
Well, I think that's where the shift away from white foods to brown food. I was running out of room to brown foods, because you're absolutely right. As you increase your fiber intake, you're going to slow down the absorption of all these sugars. So you're getting off that roller coaster I described with the insulin and all these things. Insulin goes up and your sugar crashes, and then you're binging. But you're right, absolutely right. White to brown food. So you're going to go from white flour to whole wheat. It's got the fiber in it. It's got the nutrients. You're going to go from white rice to brown rice. Again, the fiber, the nutrients are in there, and that's the idea there. Okay. Now let's look at, it's a long word, I'm sorry, catecholamines. These are certain kinds of neurotransmitters. And what's interesting is for some symptoms of schizophrenia, there may be elevated catecholamines. And I recognize people didn't come here to hear schizophrenia talk, but like I said, I think we can learn a lot about the rest of us by looking at some of these extremes of say, neural function, I guess. So again, dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. The low levels of these are associated with what's called the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. Negative symptoms mean well, let me talk about schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is not a split personality. Schizophrenia is actually the schizo is split from reality. And these are the people that may tend to have hallucinations. The mafia is after them. Aliens contacted them. And they may have racing thoughts, can't control their thoughts. They're hearing voices. They may be seeing things. Negative symptoms, though, it's still possible to be schizophrenic without those. They have very few thoughts. Their moods are very flat, flat affect, very little in the way of actions or gestures, blank look. They can't experience pleasure, just minimal words. And when we have deficiencies in these catecholamines, we may be overusing them. We may have too much stress. I mean, just look at it. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are two key stress hormones that the body utilizes in the fight or flight mechanism. If you're always in fight or flight mode, maybe you play the stock market, okay? And so there's no real danger there, but you've generated these emotions that have you constantly panicked and worried. You're going to use up your epinephrine and norepinephrine and everything that you use to make them. So you may not have enough precursors, tyrosine, tyramine, and phenylalanine. You may be missing accessory enzymes and vitamin D. And I have to mention this: vitamin D is what makes your brain make tyrosine hydroxylase, and that's the enzyme that allows you to make that epinephrine and norepinephrine. So without enough vitamin D, you're not going to have enough of those. There may also be disturbances in the cellular reuptake mechanism. This can be due to candida infections, hypothyroid, alcoholism. All these things are things to consider.
Isn't phenylalanine, isn't that what's in chocolate that makes people addicted to chocolate?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to check into that. See, you keep asking questions, David. I don't know.
That's what I'm for.
So there are the precursors to the catecholamines. Tyramine is found in all sorts of places. The reason I'm going to list all these is not so you go and eat each one of them, but when you look at the whole picture, you go, oh, that's a varied diet. Someone that ate all those things would be getting lots of different nutrition from different places. And you're right. Cheddar cheeses, especially aged cheeses may be high in tyramine. Nuts, avocado, chicken, liver, also wine, beer, and pork. And I mentioned this, they're contraindicated when taking these MAO inhibitors, and I'll tell you why that's important in just a second. Tyrosine is another amino acid. This catecholamine precursor. It's found in legumes, wheat germ, dairy, poultry, meat, eggs, fish, almonds, sesame, and sunflower seeds, and spirulina. Most of these are going to be protein sources, but you see there's some, meats, I should say, or dairy products, but you find some other sources of these things to give us those proteins. That MAOI is what degrades norepinephrine. I should have said monoamine oxidase. Sorry, forget the I. Is a copper-containing enzyme which degrades the norepinephrine. It may be reduced in paranoid schizophrenia, but the inhibitors of that enzyme are used for depression, and guess what? They may worsen someone who's paranoid, has a paranoid schizophrenia. Remember I said the fight or flight, that norepinephrine, epinephrine? Why? You're paranoid, okay? And if you are inhibiting that enzyme, that may become worse. Things to keep in mind. Dopamine. This is really an interesting one. I didn't realize how important it was. It has emotional and hormonal response. My experience with dopamine was in the ICU. We would use it to keep people's blood pressures up where we wanted it, if their blood pressure was too low. But it's incredibly powerful in the brain. It is responsible for emotional and hormonal response, for the integration of an entire experience, the limbic system, the thought, the pleasure center. It is responsible, in fact, for a great deal of learning. As we're learning, if we have any behavior can be learned, and I don't mean just education. Any behavior can be learned, and dopamine is responsible for that pleasure center in the process of that behavior. If it's pleasant, we're getting that dopamine, and we're going to want to go back and do that behavior again. Oh, yes, and cocaine. Cocaine is one of the street drugs that's going to help stimulate that dopamine release. Also, dopamine is responsible for some of the control over our movement. So Parkinson's may have some deficiency in the dopamine system, and chorea may have excess of dopamine. It helps balance certain other neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, which is going to mediate brain activity and memory, muscle reactions, balances histamine as well. Let's look at norepinephrine now. It's going to work with epinephrine in that fight-or-flight response that we talked about, remember? It's going to raise blood pressure. Again, my first experience with it was in the intensive care unit for people with extremely low blood pressure. But what does it do? It increases attention and focus. So people with ADD may be on something called Strattera, which is a selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. And what that's doing is allowing that norepinephrine to stay in the space a little while longer so that it has more of a chance to act. And you remember what we said about downregulation. Since the norepinephrine is there, it's going to tend to downregulate some of these receptors. So that's why we give, for so many of these medications for kids with attention deficit, they need a drug holiday so that their brains can learn to react to the normal amounts of neurotransmitters. So they upregulate some of those receptors again, and then the medication works better when you start it again. Norepinephrine also elevates mood. The tricyclic antidepressants specifically are going to help inhibit that breakdown. Oh yes, and our friend cocaine is something else that's going to help that norepinephrine. Excuse me. And you know how the people who take cocaine say, well, I just after the first high, every other high is an attempt to recreate that high. But the norepinephrine has left them feeling completely in control and completely focused, and like they can, understand anything now. And that's a bit of an exaggeration, but that's now, if you understand what norepinephrine does, you can see why they might feel that way.
Is that why some people get really creative on cocaine?
Oh, yeah, it could very well be. That's